This past week, we had the Department of Homeland Security release updated information regarding the National ID, or this Real ID. This is important that people pay attention to what's going on here because they're slowly but surely implementing their plan here to where biometrics are going to be inside of some kind of identification card. And then it's going to move to being on the person down the road, on the person permanently. And what they're stating is, beginning January 22nd of 2018, all airline passengers will need identification cards that are in compliance with the more secure features that are required by the Real ID Act of 2005. Now, this Real ID Act was passed in response to 9/11. Now, until the deadline, all states' driver's license and passports will be valid for airline travel. Now, currently, 5 states and 1 territory, Illinois, Minnesota, Missouri, New Mexico, Washington, and America Samoa, do not comply with the Real ID standards. Several other states are reportedly taking steps to update their identification cards between now and then, and these standards include invasive biometric measures. Now, travelers in states that do not comply with the strict security measures will be forced to use an alternative form of identification that is recognized by the Transportation Security Administration, or the TSA. These options include a permanent resident card, an airline-issued identification card, or a tribal identification card. Now, most unnerving of all this is the fact that the Real ID requirements extend to driving privileges, in addition to airline travel. Yes. Extending to driver's license. And if your state driver's license does not meet the Real ID standards, you will need to carry another acceptable form of identification and likely will not be able to legally drive. Now, when announcing these new guidelines, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Jeh Johnson, offered a firm call to states that dare challenge the federal government's plan. He said over the next 2 years, the states that do not have the Real ID or are not compliant have that amount of time to meet the requirements of the law for the benefit of their residents. That was his words. So this is where it's sitting. There are currently 23 states complying with the Real ID. 27 states and territories have been granted extensions to comply with this. So this is where it sits. I figured I would share the information with you folks out there and let it be known that by 2018, whether people realize it or not, they're going to be trying to make sure that the specifications of the Real ID are woven into even your driver's license. And you're talking biometrics and all that stuff. So just a heads up, I'll leave a link. It's been Dabu7.